The helicopter landed on the edge of my private island, just as I was unloading the last crate of supplies. I froze. Half-built walls and scaffolding now covered what was supposed to be my untouched beachfront. A bright yellow sign read, HOA approved island resort expansion. My stomach dropped. I ran toward the workers before they could notice me, and a woman in a crisp white blazer stepped out. Her heels clicked like warning bells across the wooden planks. "You can't be here," she said, pointing at me like I was trespassing. "This is officially HOA property now. You'll have to leave," I laughed, but it died in my throat. "Excuse me? This is my island. I own it." She smiled thinly, the kind of smile that says she already knew she was about to win. "Ownership doesn't matter. The HOA voted. We're expanding. You're in violation of zoning laws. Call the authorities and they'll remove you." I noticed her badge, a cheap plastic thing dangling from a chain, and a chill ran down my spine. Fake, obviously fake. But the workers around her were already moving cranes and forklifts as if this was completely normal. My mind raced. My wife had trained SWAT units. My best friend was a retired sheriff, but none of them were here yet. I had to buy time. "Fine," I said slowly, keeping my voice calm. "I'll leave. After I take a look at your permits," she smirked. "Oh, you'll see. Everything is perfect. We have the HOA stamp. You don't." I knew then that this wasn't just a fight over property, it was personal. She wanted to humiliate me, make me feel powerless on the land I'd spent a decade building. And the worst part? I had no idea how deep this went. The cameras hidden in the trees caught everything. Her lying, her fake enforcement. The workers oblivious to the truth, but she didn't know I could see them. I whispered under my breath, "Let them finish. Just let them finish." And then I noticed a small stack of papers under her briefcase. The top sheet read, "Certificate of Ownership Dispute." She had planned to fake documents to make me look like the trespasser. My pulse jumped. This wasn't just an HOA overreach. This was a setup, and I was standing right in the middle of it. Before she could say another word, I snapped a photo with my phone, capturing her and the fake permit. "Smile," I muttered, and she froze, her confident mask slipping for a heartbeat. I didn't move, didn't react, just let her think she'd won. Because in that silence I was already plotting, every step, every twist she thought she controlled. I was watching, waiting. And when the real cops, the real proof, and the real power came, it would hit harder than any crane swinging over my private beach. The moment she pulled out her phone, I knew exactly what she was doing. Her fingers hovered over the screen like a predator, and she whispered something I couldn't hear, but the expression on her face said it all. Fake cops. I felt my chest tighten, but I stayed calm. The workers were watching me, expecting me to panic, and I let them think I was just another angry island owner losing control. A black SUV rolled up the dirt path, dust trailing behind it, and two men in dark uniforms stepped out. The badges glinted in the sun, but the cheap plastic edges gave them away. They approached me with that confident, "We're in charge" swagger. "You're under arrest for trespassing," one barked. "The HOA authorized this." I smiled, slow and controlled. "Trespassing? On my own island?" I raised an eyebrow. "You're sure you're real cops?" The man hesitated. Just a fraction, but long enough. Then I heard it. A familiar voice over the radio, static at first, then clear. "All units, hold position. Confirm identity before acting." I had wired a hidden mic into the trees weeks ago, testing the security system, and now it was catching everything. The fake cops froze. Karen, the woman in white, paled. She knew something was wrong, but she had no idea what. I leaned closer to the men. "Check your badges. I think someone's playing dress-up." One of them looked at the badge again, fumbled, and muttered, "Ma'am, we—" "Exactly," I said, calm but deadly. "You're not cops." "And she knows it." I motioned to Karen. "You're finished pretending." The workers stopped mid-task, staring as Karen's perfect composure cracked. Her smirk turned into a nervous twitch. She tried to speak, but the words stuck. Then one of the real deputies I'd secretly called last week appeared from the tree line, uniform crisp, hand on his holster. "You called who?" Karen stammered, glancing around, realizing her plan was unraveling. The deputy held up his badge. "Looks like someone's impersonating law enforcement. Mind explaining?" Her face went red, then white, then a shade of pure panic. She reached for the papers under her briefcase, trying to grab the fake permits, but my camera caught it all. Every move, every lie, every smug attempt to cheat her way through. I stepped forward, feeling the tension build like a storm over the ocean. I didn't fight for this country to have fake cops tell me I can't be on my own property, I said, voice low but clear. Karen realized her plan had collapsed completely, and for the first time, she looked like an ordinary person, vulnerable, exposed, and terrified. And just when I thought the worst was over, my phone buzzed with a message I hadn't expected. Check the deeds folder. She's hiding something big. The real twist was about to hit. I moved toward the small office she had set up, pretending to examine the construction plans, while my phone scanned the folders I had stored in the hidden cloud drive. My fingers froze on the screen when I saw it. A scanned deed from 10 years ago, notarized and filed with the county. Every signature, every stamp, every line of legal authority belonged to me. Karen hadn't just tried to fake permits, she had planned to erase my ownership entirely. I stepped back, letting the workers and fake cops see me holding the phone. Looks like someone forgot to check the archives, I said quietly, letting the words hang in the air. Karen's jaw dropped, her eyes darting between the deed and the growing crowd. That can't be real, she stammered. Oh, it's real, I said, holding it out like a weapon. 10 years, fully notarized public record. Your HOA vote means nothing if it contradicts the law. The fake cops started whispering, unsure, shuffling their feet. Karen's confidence evaporated into panic, and she slammed her briefcase down on the table, scattering papers everywhere. She lunged for the deed, but I had already snapped multiple photos, uploaded them to the cloud, and notified my attorney. Every lie, every attempt to steal my land was now documented. You see, I said, stepping closer. This island isn't yours to commandeer. And impersonating law enforcement? That's a felony. I hope you enjoy jail visits. She opened her mouth, but no words came. The workers murmured, realizing they'd been building a hotel on someone else's land. Some of them nodded at me, almost like allies suddenly aware of who was really in charge. Then the real twist hit. Karen reached into her blazer and pulled out a small locked box. You think this deed changes everything? There's more. The HOA can claim eminent domain if... I caught her mid-sentence. I already knew what was inside. It was the box she had used to threaten neighbors. Fake legal letters, bribed signatures, anything to twist control. I smirked. Funny you should mention eminent domain. The court already rejected it for this property. But go ahead, open it. Her hands trembled as she fumbled with the lock. Inside, the papers were meaningless, outdated, and easily disproved by the county records. Every single attempt to undermine me was now a piece of evidence against her. By the time the real deputies circled, Karen was speechless, her empire of fake authority crumbling in front of everyone. The workers stared in awe, whispers spreading. She actually tried to take someone's private island. I tucked the deed safely into my pocket. Sometimes, I said quietly, almost to myself, you have to let people finish their little plan, just to see how badly it fails. And in that moment, the sun glinted off the water like a warning. Her downfall had just begun. Karen wasn't finished. Even after being exposed, her eyes burned with a mix of rage and desperation. She stormed toward the workers, pointing at me like I was the criminal. You think this proves anything? I have the HOA board. We can... Before she could finish, a drone whirred overhead, live streaming the entire island to local news channels. I had set it up weeks ago, anticipating her kind of stunt. Suddenly, every move, every lie, every fake cop appearance was being broadcast live. The helicopter landing, the construction, her fake badge, everything was on display for the entire county. The workers froze, staring at the screen. Wait, this is live? One whispered. Murmurs spread across the island. Karen's face drained of color. I stayed calm, watching her panic grow. Yes, I said, voice low but audible. And the neighbors already know about your little scheme. By the time this ends, everyone will know you tried to steal my island. Her hand shook as she turned to flee, but a real deputy blocked the dock. Not so fast, he said. Karen's smirk, that mask of entitlement, vanished completely. She tried to argue, but every word she spoke contradicted the footage. Her threats to call law enforcement backfired, exposing her to a charge of impersonating an officer. The media asked questions she couldn't answer. The drone captured her scrambling, trying to look powerful. And the visual said it all. Someone who abused authority, humiliated workers, and plotted theft, all in one unraveling scene. I stepped forward, holding the deed in my hand for the cameras. This island has been in my family's name for over 10 years. Every attempt to undermine me was illegal, and yet she still thought she could get away with it. The news crew caught every word, every gesture. Karen looked around, realizing her reputation was collapsing in real time. Even her HOA allies were whispering, unsure of what to do. And then the final twist hit. Her phone rang and the caller ID flashed, County Legal Affairs. Apparently one of her fake filings had triggered a review. The officer on the line said her HOA-approved documents were fraudulent. The county was opening a full investigation. Karen froze, realizing she had played every card and every single one had backfired. For the first time, she looked utterly powerless. A lesson in entitlement crashing down on her in front of witnesses, workers, deputies, and now the entire local media. I turned to the workers, the deputies, even the streaming cameras. "You can't break the law and hide behind a title," I said. "Not here. Not ever." And as Karen was escorted away, muttering excuses that no one would ever believe, I felt the weight of the moment. My island was safe, my ownership was unshakable, and the entire spectacle, every fake cop, every stolen permit had been documented for the world to see. Weeks later, the courtroom was packed. Karen had filed a last-ditch lawsuit, claiming some loophole in HOA authority supposedly allowed her to reclaim the island. I sat quietly at the plaintiff's table, the deed safely in my briefcase, my attorney whispering updates in my ear. Karen strutted in, wearing that same white blazer, like she could intimidate the judge with sheer entitlement. The first moments were tense. She tried her usual tactics, loud interruptions, dramatic gestures, and emotional pleas, but every document she presented crumbled under scrutiny. My team had prepared meticulously, notarized deeds, drone footage, security recordings, witness statements from workers, and the fake badge incidents. Each piece demolished her story piece by piece, then came the twist she didn't expect. My attorney held up a printout of the HOA meeting minutes, dated, signed, and notarized. It showed that not only had the HOA voted after the construction had already begun without proper permits, but Karen had forged several board member signatures. Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Karen's confident mask cracked. She tried to speak, but the judge cut her off. "Ms. Karen, you are under oath. These documents appear to be falsified." The gavel pounded like thunder in the silent room. I leaned back, letting it sink in. This wasn't just a legal victory, it was a public exposure. Every witness who had been intimidated by her earlier now felt empowered to testify. One by one, neighbors spoke about her threats, her fake notices, her insistence that she could overrule ownership laws. Each account hit harder than the last, and then came the final satisfying twist. My attorney handed the judge a flash drive. "Your Honor, this contains all security footage, drone live streams, and recordings of Ms. Karen attempting to intimidate workers and impersonate officers." We submitted as evidence. Karen's eyes went wide. She hadn't expected this digital backup. Every lie, every fake move, every scheme she had relied on was now visible, undeniable, and time-stamped. The courtroom murmured. Some witnesses whispered, "She's going to jail for this." The judge nodded gravely. "It is clear that Ms. Karen acted outside the law in an attempt to seize property she had no claim to. The court rules in favor of the plaintiff. Ms. Karen, you will be held accountable for fraud and impersonation." A collective exhale filled the room. Karen's face was pale, her entitlement shattered. The workers, neighbors, even the media who had streamed parts of the hearing, watched her humiliation in real time. I stood up slowly, feeling the weight lift from my shoulders. The island was mine. My family's sanctuary was safe, and the woman who had tried to bully, intimidate, and steal from me had been exposed, not just in private, but in front of everyone. As we walked out of the courthouse, the sun hit the water, glinting like a victory banner. I whispered, almost to myself, "Some people learn the hard way, but that's what makes justice so sweet." A few days after the courtroom victory, news outlets started receiving anonymous press releases from Karen, trying to paint me as the villain, a tyrant island owner abusing HOA rules. I knew immediately it was a last-ditch smear attempt, but instead of panicking, I had already prepared. I invited the local reporters back to the island, showing them every inch of the property. Drones flew overhead, live footage streamed across social media, and neighbors spoke openly about Karen's lies and intimidation. I walked calmly along the beachfront, holding the deed and security footage in hand. This is the truth, I told them. Everything she's saying is fabricated. Karen showed up, desperate, trying to argue her version of events, but the cameras caught her in real time, contradicting every statement she had made in court. Every fake cop call, every forged permit, every intimidation tactic, it was all visible. People started whispering, recording, and posting on social media. Karen exposed. Her plan unraveled spectacularly. Instead of gaining sympathy, she became a cautionary tale. One neighbor even laughed and said on camera, "She tried to steal an island and got caught on live feed. What a joke." Karen turned beet red and stormed off, tripping over the construction debris she had once commanded. I turned to my family, who had been watching quietly, and smiled. The victory wasn't just legal, it was emotional, patriotic, and deeply satisfying. Every citizen watching online could see that entitlement and corruption do not triumph over law, truth, and perseverance. As the sun set over the island, I looked at my family, at the calm water reflecting the orange sky, and whispered, I didn't fight for this country to have someone tell me I couldn't live freely on my own land. The island was safe, the HOA abuser exposed, and justice, a slow, patient, unstoppable justice, had been served. Karen's fate caught up with her faster than anyone expected. Within a week, the county filed charges for fraud, impersonation of law enforcement, and attempted property theft. The news spread like wildfire. Every channel, every social media post, every local feed carried her name alongside the words criminal charges. I watched from my porch as deputies escorted her from her home in handcuffs, her entourage of HOA allies nowhere in sight. The same woman who once commanded fear with a single smirk now shuffled quietly, powerless, her white blazer crumpled and dirt-stained from her own chaotic schemes. Inside the courtroom, the proceedings were swift. The judge recounted her impersonations, the forged permits, and the harassment she inflicted on workers and neighbors. Each point was backed by my footage, the notarized deeds, and live drone recordings. Karen tried to protest, but no one listened. Every twist she had hoped to use to escape justice had already been documented. Outside, the community gathered, watching the wheels of accountability turn. Children waved at the deputies, neighbors cheered, and reporters captured it all. I stood silently with my family, letting the moment sink in. My daughter whispered, "Dad, you saved our island." I just smiled, feeling the weight of everything, anger, fear, and relief, finally lift. For Karen, the consequences were severe but just. The law had reclaimed its power, and her abuse of entitlement, authority, and deception had been fully exposed. And for me, it wasn't about revenge in the petty sense, it was about justice, preserving freedom and proving that truth, courage, and preparation always win against corruption. As we returned to the island, the breeze carried a sense of victory, not just over a single adversary, but over the idea that anyone could manipulate the law to bully others. I looked at the sun glinting off the water. The construction finally paused, the land safe, and whispered, "No one owns this island but us, and no one will ever threaten it again." The final twist lingered in the quiet. Karen had underestimated not just the law, but the people she tried to intimidate. Every camera, every witness, every hidden recording had turned the tables. And in the end, entitlement had no power over courage and truth. The island was quiet now, the chaos of Karen's schemes replaced by calm waves lapping against the shore. My family gathered on the deck, watching the sunset paint the sky in gold and crimson. For a moment it felt like time had paused, giving us space to breathe, to reflect, to savor the hard-won peace. "I can't believe it's finally over," my wife said, holding our youngest tightly. "You stayed calm when everything was falling apart. You let them finish. And it worked." I nodded, thinking back to that first day, when cranes rose where my private beach once lay, when fake cops tried to intimidate me, when Karen thought she could rewrite reality. Every moment of tension, every twist, every hidden camera, all of it led to this: justice served without compromise. The county's final ruling was clear. Karen faced jail time, fines, and permanent disqualification from any HOA authority. Her empire of entitlement had crumbled, not with violence or anger, but with truth, patience, and law. I looked around at my family, at the untouched parts of the island that still held memories of years of work and love. "We didn't fight for this country just to have someone tell us we couldn't enjoy what's ours," I said, voice steady. "Freedom isn't just a word, it's what protects this land, this family, and every honest citizen." The sun sank into the horizon, and I felt a deep sense of pride, not arrogance, but a quiet honor in knowing that courage, vigilance, and preparation had protected our home. Neighbors waved from afar, friends called to congratulate us, and the island itself seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. Karen's last attempts at smearing me or reclaiming power had failed. Every twist she had tried backfired, and her entitlement had been exposed for all to see. In the end, it wasn't just about an island. It was about standing firm, respecting the law, and protecting what truly matters. As night fell, I stood at the water's edge, feeling the cool breeze on my face. The deed was safe, the family was safe, and justice had been done. I whispered to the stars above, "This is what freedom looks like, and this is what victory feels like." The island belonged to us, the law had been upheld, and the story of entitlement undone would be remembered as a lesson. Never underestimate the power of truth, preparation, and unwavering courage.